you're, running around thinking that you're good enough to work yourself into a divine place such as heaven. Based on what you do down here, that's just you're making yourself a god. And that's what Adam and Eve thought too. That's what I'm saying. And now look. So that's when I say that when there's a miracle that happens in religion, hey, look, I'm not going to say that, God never came down and healed a Muslim. I'm not going to sit here and I'm not going to sit here and say God won't heal somebody from a religion. But I have a hard time believing that God is going to, do it and not at some point really make his presence known. God is not going to sit there and have, walk up to somebody who is in idol worship and heal them and not even lead them to even see who really did it. Because at that point, God is just being who he's not. God has wiped out nations for idol worship. I mean, read the Bible. It's saturated with you shall not have any other gods but me. And what I mean by God doesn't necessarily have to be a religious God. It could be yourself. It could be a thought, a word. It could be an attitude. It could be, you can idolize your girlfriend. Idolization, I don't necessarily mean like get down on your hands and knees and worship. I just mean anything that you put above God. Your cell phone, your clothes, your money, your job, your kids. Idols, they surround us. If you have an addiction to drugs, that's a form, that's idolization. You're idolizing cigarettes. I don't care if it's coffee or soda or whatever. A certain lifestyle or whatever. Now, you can struggle with things. It's one thing to struggle with it, but if you're accepting it, that's not good. But if you come to God and say, God, look, you died so I can be, relieved of this addiction or whatever. I know it's not your will for my life, but it's really starting to, I really need some, I'm really in bondage now, and, maybe I'm not your child, but I really want to be, but this over here is really like causing me, can we work together, or something, or if you, just whatever, his children, we struggle with sin every day. I struggle with certain sins. I sure do, But religion is religion, man, and that's just you're just being your own God. We all have a sin nature we need to be delivered from, and religion ain't gonna do that for you. It ain't gonna do it for me. It's not gonna do it for any one of us. The only way that that's ever gonna happen, you're gonna get real. You're going to get real deliverance from your sin is through the cross of Christ, that finished work. Rest in that. It's hard. It is. It's not easy, but rest in that and rest assured that you will be within God's will and just let him have control. So that's all I really have to say. I'm going to sit here. I know I just really drove, the book of Genesis, and I just was really trying to really like emphasize that the best way I could and explain it, because I know that people who are bound in religion, it's fleshly, it's who we are, it's our natural fallen nature to really fall into the trap of religion. That's why there's so many religions out there. Nobody wants a relationship with God because it goes against who we are. That's why it takes God to come to God. Nobody can come to God unless God, leads that person to God, because it's not in our nature to come to God in a real way. It's our nature to be religious. It's our nature to think that we can just earn our way into heaven. That's our nature. That's why there's so many religions around the world. And that's why it's so hard, for a religious person to really accept the fact that God does love you. See, the thing about religion is it feeds our very core of our fallen nature, aka humanity, man, fallen man. Okay? It's pride. We think we're good enough. That's just steroids to our ego. Pride was the reason, was the first, was, it was the fall. It's why the enemy fell. That was the first Pride. Number two, it's just, you're fleshly. Like you have insecurities. You think you're not good enough based on your background. Maybe, you're rejected, or your parents didn't love you enough, or you didn't love you enough. How about that? We don't give ourselves enough credit for how bad we feel. There could be a lot of things, but one thing I do know is it's so much easier to just fall in, to be religious than it is to really have a relationship with God and really believe, because we can't see God, we can't touch God. All we can do is really accept him by faith. That's all we can do. That's all we can do. But I promise you, if you do that and you do it within the confines of that finished work, you will see a change. If you do it, and you do it in a real way and really seek him, then he shall be found. And religion ain't going to do that for you. Religion is just going to make you run around and be dizzy and fall over, and then it burns you out. It really does. And Christians fall into religion all the time. I fell into religion, but I'm working with God to get my way out. Now, I didn't fall into religion as the sense of Catholicism. I just fell into religion because it's my nature. I have a hard time sometimes believing that there's a God up there that really loves me. Not to get personal, but let's face it. I've had some bad luck in my life with some people, and there's certain people that have made me feel as worthless as a piece of trash floating down the street. People that I held to, people that I trusted, people that I loved. And a lot of people struggle with the same thing to various degrees. And that's what religion feeds off of, like a leech. We're not good enough. I'm not good enough. I'm not athletic enough. Or I'm not, I'm athletic enough. I keep bringing that up. But I'm just saying some guys aren't. And because they're not, I played sports my whole life, but I'm saying some guys aren't. And their fathers or whatever, even their mothers in some cases, I'm sure, they favor the brother over the other brother that might like something else, But God doesn't do that. God doesn't sit here and he's not going to take the athlete or the science geek over the athlete, or he's not going to take, the pretty skinny model Barbie doll sister over the overweight one. He's not going to take, the whoever. I mean, he loves us regardless, but you have to have that relationship. You have to be saved, not religious. Religion will burn you out. And that's what religion does. It feeds on your flesh. It feeds every insecurity that you could possibly think of. Possibly. I mean, really, let me use this example. You hurt your girlfriend or hurt your boyfriend or hurt your husband or hurt your wife. What's the first thing that you do? You run out to the store and you buy some roses. Why? Well, it's the same concept. That's your form of repentance. If you really believe that your husband or your wife really loved you unconditionally, all you'd have to say is, sorry, I made a mistake, and mean it, and be willing to change from that. And have that person love you enough to say, you know what, you're forgiven. But see, the problem is, we don't love each other enough. Our kids don't love us enough, we don't love them enough. Our parents don't love us enough, and vice versa. Your husbands, in my case, I'm not married, but, I'm just saying husbands and wives, we don't love each other that much. We don't possess that kind of love. We only like to walk around and pretend we do. So that's why religion is so easy for us. That's a form of religion. I just got in an argument with my wife and now she's crying, so let me run out to the florist and just buy a dozen roses. Maybe that'll make it better. Or on the Kobe Bryant, remember Kobe Bryant did that thing and cheated on his wife or what? I don't want to get into all that. That dude went out and bought her a $40,000 or whatever it was, some crazy diamond ring. Oh, look, it's Kobe Bryant. $40,000 ain't nothing but a drop in the bucket. It's nothing but running out to the store. That's his equivalent to a dozen of roses. It's not the money, it's not the roses, it's not the shirt, it's not the ring. It's not the money. It's the point that you had to literally you had to do something in order to get, that's religion. Religion is saying, I made a mistake, God, let me run to the store and get you some roses. Do you forgive me? Do you forgive me? If you have to do that for your girlfriend or your husband or your son or your daughter or your mother or your father or your aunt or your uncle or God himself, you might want to check who your family and your friends really are. That's not love. I refuse to run around and be a good boy for anybody. And that's not pride, but if you don't love me for me, now if I make a mistake, give me a chance to apologize in turn for my mistake. But if you're not going to love me enough to allow me to be a human being and make mistakes, then you don't need to be in my life. But I'm sure enough not going to run out to the store and feed your flesh and say, please forgive me. Oh, let's go out to dinner. Let's do this. Let's do that. People try that garbage with me. No, man, I don't want it. It just adds fuel to the fire. You know, I'd rather have you just come up to me and say, I'm sorry. Will you forgive me? I made a huge mistake, and mean it. I can respect that. But when somebody runs out to the store and hands me something, that's ridiculous. You know, I mean, I was kind of mad before, but now I'm furious. Now you could really get out of my face at that point, man. You know, you're just making it worse on me. Because when you love someone, you'll forgive them. Maybe not right away. It's a process. You know, but that's love. You will work, you will pray, you will work with God. You know, you will admit your faults to God and say, God, I'm having a hard time overcoming. And sometimes it's a huge process. And it's not really about that person, it's about yourself. Because when you hold on to that's chains, that's baggage. You're doing it for yourself. But I don't want to get into all that. That's just something else I don't want to get into. I touched on one of that. You know, I'm working on some things myself. So again, I'm not just saying, you know, that's the best example I have for religion. But you know what? It's a perfect one. Next time your husband goes out, and next time you get into a fight with your significant other or whatever, or next time your son or daughter thinks that they have to get certain grades in school, or I mean, if they're not trying hard enough, that's one thing. You know, and again, if they're pushing this new way, you know, this weird stuff on them, like monkeys and homosexuality is okay and this and that, and don't force those kids into that stuff. Matter of fact, pull them out of school, homeschool them. Don't let this world corrupt your little kid. That's crazy. If your little kid is trying to run from that stuff and you force that stuff on them, then shame on you, really. You should never do that. You're supposed to protect your kids, love your kids, and accept your kids and keep them pure. Not put them in a situation where they're going to get burned. And then when they try to escape it, you say, not so fast. You grab them by the collar and throw them in the fire. That's crazy. These schools are belly up, man. But that's, again, what I'm trying to say is, you know, that's just the best example I got. And if you know, and a lot of people do that, and they really mean well. They do, and it's they're not trying to be mean to you. But obviously, that person has obviously that person has a hard time believing that you really love them unconditionally. Not because maybe you do love them unconditionally, but maybe because of where they came from. Maybe they came from a hurtful place. Maybe they came from a place where they feel like they didn't add up somehow. For whatever reason. It could be a number of reasons, but that's what religion does. Religion says, you know, I'm God and I'm mad at you. You said something horrible to your wife, or you said something wrong, and you insulted me somehow. Now go to the store and buy me a ring, buy me roses, make me feel better. Here you go, God. Okay, well, I'm going to stick them in a vase, and, you know, I'll wait another 2 to 3 minutes until you mess up again, and then you're just going to have to go back to the store and buy me more roses. That's religion. You don't have to do that. There's something in this universe called grace. And God has a whole bunch of it. Just be willing to admit your sin and turn from it. And God will help you. I'm still learning too. But it ain't religion. None of it's religion. So that's my argument on why, you know, I said I'm right and religion is not right. I mean, really. Can you argue with what I said? If you do, fine. I'm not gonna, I mean, it's not about arguing. If you don't agree with me, that's fine. That's fine. That's fine. All the same, whatever, you know, but really. So that's all I really have to say. Have a nice day.